We have Jimmy Chan of Hawaiian Chip Company, as well as Neal Arakaki with Menehune. I wanted to talk to you both about the challenges of the food manufacturing businesses here. Let's start with you, Jimmy. I know you work very closely with a lot of fellow manufacturers like yourself. What is the biggest issue that these companies are facing?
Right now, I think it's just dealing with a sudden and dramatic loss of revenue. I think some of us, like my company, we've been fortunate because we do have a little revenue coming in from grocery, big box stores like Costco, Sam's Club. But as far as our business in restaurants, our supplies to the airlines and hotels, that is basically zero. So trying to keep our fixed expenses paid, because now our infrastructure is set up to support all that business, but that expense does not necessarily go down because the business goes down. And then also, of course, retaining employees in a time like this too. It's been a little tough.
Mm-hmm. And what about you, Neal? What insight can you share about the challenges you're facing?
Well, actually, Jimmy's pretty much hit the nail on the head. It's everybody, especially in the food manufacturers that we talk to all the time. The sudden loss of revenue, looking at your fixed overhead costs, and there's nowhere to go. There's basically no revenue. When we hear a lot of the projections going forward from agencies and outside entities, there's an assumption that when business resumes, revenue resumes. But we know from the food manufacturer side, that's not going to happen. It's going to be a slow walk up to get back to any kind of break-even sales. Nobody knows how long it's going to take, 6 months, a year, 18 months. I don't think anybody really knows. So
are you in the same boat where, Jimmy is still kind of continuing because he has the big box retailers? Are you as well doing that?
Actually, our product is a little different. We do handmade chocolates. We do have wholesale accounts out there, but a lot of them are oriented toward visitors. I do a lot of work for hotels, specialty stores, and we do a little bit of general retailing out of our factory store here in Kalihi. But when you look at the sudden loss of sales across the board like that, there's basically nothing you can do. There is no plan for this. You have to roll with the punches and get creative. My operation we stopped production in March because there were no future orders coming in. So we're still out of operation. All of my employees are on furlough. All of them are scheduled to come back when we go back into operation. But I may not be back in operation until midsummer. I've talked to our customers out there. There's going to be no demand for product. They're still sitting on inventory as everything shut down in March, so there's no need to reorder. Jimmy and I think, and most manufacturers have the other problem. We don't know where our materials situation is going to be. When we start our production again, our supplier is going to be there for us. And they can't. And will the prices be the same? There's all kinds of issues.
Yeah, Jimmy, weigh in on that. You were telling me about the raw products, the supply there. Tell us about the challenge.
Yeah, for a lot of our products, we do have to ship in bags, materials, boxes, that kind of stuff. But for my product specifically, we use potatoes that are locally grown. And, for one product specifically, our orange sweet potatoes, that's something that the farmers grow specifically for us. So if we don't buy these potatoes, they don't have a market to sell to, and they may not be around. So right now what we're doing is we're just buying on regular schedule, making a lot of sweet potato chips, and basically donating them. We just sent, I think, almost 50 cases to the food bank. Yesterday we sent 50 cases to Aloha Harvest. The other day we've been donating to first responders. But at the same time, that's basically piling it on another expense for us. It does give my employees meaningful work, but until we, figure that out, it's going to be a little crazy. So we're just trying our best to keep that supply chain going, because they can't tell the potatoes to stop growing. So
Yeah, and they have to plan,
Yep.
years in advance, the
Yep.
farmers. And
Yep.
like you said, because of this, there is no planning involved. Neil, what about your products, your raw products?
It's similar in the sense that I use 100% Hawaiian grown macadamia nuts. It's depending when we start up again, what the inventory situations are, what the pricing is going to be. We don't know where that's going to go. But there's the thing that I wish people be more cognizant of is that there is a chain. If you look at just seeing how my business is affected, um, that's one small microscopic picture. But if I don't continue purchasing down the line, and the person I'm buying from continues to purchase down the line, there is an extended impact. And when you combine all the food manufacturers in the state, big and small, um, it's going to be a very long tail. There's going to be damages down the line that I don't think people are expecting.
I think what's interesting here, you guys bring up all of these points, but we've known that manufacturing products in Hawaii is a challenge in itself, with the cost of goods and shipping, and just it's higher in general than what we see on the mainland. So this really just exacerbates all of the issues that you guys have been facing for years. Jimmy, what can you ask for in terms of government intervention, or kind of, is there federal relief other than PPP? Obviously, we talk a lot about that, but on a local level, is what can be done?
I think more relief to help cover fixed expenses, because cost of is just like businesses, right? And just like housing, the cost of land here is so high. So I think more relief, in terms of money to just allow manufacturers and other businesses, for that matter, to be able to cover rent expenses and whatnot, because that's one fixed expense that is not going to really go away. And
City and county had announced that small business recovery fund. Do you plan on applying for that? It's like $10,000 grants. Do you qualify? I don't know if you qualify, actually.
So my business is kind of no man's land. Yeah, we don't quite qualify, but yet we're not really big enough to have significant financial assets. So yeah, so I mean, I think that's great. I think it's essential that you do help out, businesses of that size too. Especially those businesses, because they will become bigger businesses and support more jobs in our economy. But I think overall, just across the board, businesses are, we're, especially in Hawaii, we're looking at a lot of expenses, and it's disproportionate to the rest of the country, So I think the PPPs were set up 75%, for payroll, 25% you can use for, stuff, but that's, in a lot of cases, I don't think that's quite enough to cover our fixed expenses of rent and property.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Neil? What kind of programs would you like to see?
Well, the $10,000 from the city. I mean, I think that's an excellent program the way it was laid out. I don't qualify. I think I made 35 cents too much on my last gross sale to qualify. But but you put it into relative perspective. $10,000, great to help guys out, but that's only a quarter of my biannual lease rent. So if they gave me $10,000, I'd give it back to the city just to pay the property taxes. So it's kind of a wash. There's I can't get it wouldn't help me in that sense. But Jimmy's right. A lot of it, like the PPP, is set up on a general national model where expenses are allocated, where payroll was primary and fixed costs are relatively small. PPP is based against your employment and your payroll. So it becomes disproportionate, because on the mainland, I know as a fact, they don't think that, 50% of your operating of your income will actually go to fixed expense, 50, 60%. They're thinking like 15 or 20%. So while it does help, it's not going to be enough to really tide you over to get the wheels rolling again. It's going to be insufficient no matter which way you look at it.
Mm-hmm. Is there any kind of way to negotiate rents and fixed
Well,
expenses? I know there
well,
was some discussion about potentially using CARES Act money directly for landlords,
yeah,
to try to
and
offset that.
see, and while all of these programs are in discussion, um, the expenses are accumulating, and they accumulate very, very quickly. To go from an operation that's generating, enough to cover all your expenses to suddenly not having any income to say and still covering those fixed expenses. Lease rent just being one of them. Medical insurance has not been really discounted. Business operating insurance has not been discounted. We still have to pay that on a monthly basis. Electricity, I run a chocolate company. Even when my factory is totally out of operation, I do have to keep chocolate tanks in operation. They have to be maintained almost daily. So, I mean, there are expenses that we can't get away from. It's hard. I mean, I'd love to see it. The PPP has been kind of a chameleon. In fact, every week or so, the rules change. So we're just kind of waiting to see what's going to happen.
Well, I mean, in the end, I think some of the solutions being offered are coming from the business community, and they have to come from the business community because you know what you're struggling with and what the challenges are. Um, so it really is the fixed expenses. The other discussion coming out of all of this is how dependent we are on tourism and that economy. Is that applicable to your business, compared to say restaurants and more hospitality driven, people focused, people facing businesses? Is the food manufacturing industry similar in that sense, or is it because it's like you said, it's all interconnected, it affects you? Jimmy, you can take that first.
Yeah, I think there's a definite link with dependency on tourism for the size and scale of my operation. Even though it's still a pretty small business, our growth in the last 10 years has come primarily from tourism. The first 10 years was built on just our local economy, just servicing our local economy. So at worst, I can see my business shrinking back down to that size, to where we're servicing local economy. But for the other guys who just supply hotels, airlines, that's going to be a tough transition. I know there's always a lot of talk about trying to export products, this and that, but the reality that I've kind of run into in terms of having tried to do that since basically I started my business, trying to set up sales on the mainland, this and that. It's just the cost of shipping in materials, making stuff here, and then shipping it out just doesn't put you at a competitive price point. And as good as people claim, they as much as they claim they like my products, there is a limit to what you can pay for a bag of chips. So
they like the idea of made in Hawaii, but can they pay for made in Hawaii is the question.
I mean, even online, just to ship a case of chips, you're almost paying almost a third of the money you're paying is for shipping alone. So, and even half sometimes. So there's a challenge there. I don't have any answers as far as to what we could do, but what I would like to see is just acknowledging that, yes, in the short term, it's great to think about other industries and developing that potentially, but in the short term, we are going to be dependent on tourism for our recovery in the short term. And, even if there's less tourists, I think that for a lot of businesses, especially the smaller ones, there's ways for us to maximize our revenue from those tourists, getting them to buy the local products. Don't go to the store and buy Oreo cookies. Go buy some, locally made Kauai cookie or something like that. Don't go buy the Doritos. Go buy Kona chips. Go buy Ate Baras. You know, and I think if we can focus that, that would help our industry specifically.
Yeah, and I think that's the discussion people have is, you know, if you don't reopen to visitors who are buying these, you know, products that are made here, a lot of these small businesses won't be able to survive because they do rely on visitors buying their products, you know, because they're here on vacation and they're willing to spend their money on Hawaii products.
Yeah.
Neal, what do you think of all that?
Well, yeah, it's a given that the economy is off balanced toward tourism. The truth of the matter is, without the tourist-related dollars, there's not enough cash in the state to maintain operations. You need that influx of cash in the short term. A lot of us have been advocates of trying to balance this out a little bit. Market conditions basically move against you. I have a lot of my own personal thoughts about that, you know, but it's the reality is, without tourism, you are not going to save this economy. We just won't have enough available cash, and it works downhill. It's not like, yes, I sell to retailers who sell to tourists. I do a considerable amount of exporting to Japan, which the market has totally collapsed at this point. But with that in mind, if I've got customers down the line who are now cash short, are they going to be buying my product, or are they going to be buying bread, rice, meat products? Is there going to be a shift in consumer demand to basics, where the money is going to be spent? And that's the case, then it's going to affect retailers, who in turn affects their employees, who in turn affects their paychecks, and they can't buy more. There's a possibility of a spiral bottoming out as this thing goes through. And the longer we don't have that cash infusion from tourism, the deeper the hole is going to get. And that's a reality. I think the chamber was projecting 25% bankruptcies. You know, that's not a far-fetched number. And as I see this working through, that might be a conservative number. I can see a lot of guys who can make it in the long term if they're allowed to get some kind of assistance for their basic overhead costs, which is I'm a proponent of if you want to save the businesses. But yeah, I mean, you won't be able to get back on your feet to a stable sales level without the tourist, without the whole economy in general being healthy enough to buy a product. Made in Hawaii is, Jimmy knows, I'm a huge proponent of made in Hawaii, but I'm a realist. Sometimes you can't do it. But it's a lot of it is just trying to get people to refocus on the businesses. Yeah, it's funny because we talked to Jimmy, you talked to me, you talked to 30 other food manufacturers in general. We're all going to tell you pretty much the same story. Because the food manufacturing industry, value-added industry in Hawaii, is unique in our position. We get affected very, very heavily with minor changes. And we have to compete with imported products, mainland made products. I'll harp on it where there's so many imitation made in Hawaii products in the local market as it is, and their price points will bury us because those manufacturers on the mainland don't have our operating costs. And retailers are looking for margin. So they're going to opt to buy the cheaper product that they can make a higher margin on. So our access to local retail shrinks, and there's all kinds of issues.
Well, I hope, you know, again, sharing your stories and those of so many others, like you said, 1 in 4 are projected to be closed due to the pandemic afterwards, at least, yes. So just final thoughts. I mean, where do we go from here? Like you said, there needs to be kind of a shift in how we think about, you know, supporting our local businesses, about how we see our local businesses. Where can we go from here? What would you tell the public who's watching? You can start, Neal. Go ahead, and then
Okay.
I'll give you the next.
To me, buy local. Buy local. Try to keep our economy running as best we can. Try to be a little bit more educated and discerning about your products. I don't think you should buy a product just because it's made in Hawaii. I think you should buy a product that's made in Hawaii because it's good. And the natural evolution of business is, if you've got a product that people like, you'll stay alive. If you got a product people they don't like it, you're not going to make it. None of us are going to cry about that. But I think without some kind of outside assistance, government or whatever, big change of heart from those entities that control our overhead costs, like insurance and lease rent and all those kind of things. Is there going to be a commitment to bottom line, to their bottom lines, or are they willing to kind of ease back to allow businesses to recover? I'm looking at very short recovery windows. I mean, from what I can see, people think you can recover in a year. I don't think that's realistic. I really don't think it's realistic. I don't think you're going to get the tourist numbers up in a year. You're going to get more tourists back, but I hate to say it, but I think a lot of the tourist dollars stay within the air and accommodations sector, so it doesn't filter back out to the general market.
Less spending probably.
Yeah, I mean, people will get here, but they will spend less, or they'll be more discerning on what they spend. You know, it's going to be, it's just unforeseeable. It's hard to plan, and this is the worst part. We can come up with 20 different scenarios and plans, but we have no idea if we're basing these ideas in a realistic model, because things are just keep changing. This is untested ground. No one's ever had to work out of this hole before. This is going to be very interesting. So if KITV wants to buy a cheap chocolate factory, you can come and see me.
Well, I think we're also kind of hoping advertising comes back, right? I mean, advertising dollars are across the board for media is down as well. So, and you, Jimmy, last words.
Yeah, buy local if you can. But hey, we're also realists. We understand that, we're looking at 30% unemployment here. So, and our goods aren't cheap, so, but if you can, for the public, promote local. In the off chance when you do buy a box of Menehune Mac chocolates, just put a little thing on Facebook or Instagram or something, and just say, hey, supporting local, and and that share it with your 800 of your closest friends, so that when they do come to Hawaii, it'll be top of mind, and that I think that's the key for us right now. It's just trying to stay relevant, just trying to stay top of mind, so that they can, so that when we do get our friends, family at the very least, come in to visit us once things open up, that they'll seek out our products, our authentic, Hawaiian products, and keep that top of mind. And of course, with the government, if we could just kind of help steer some of that conversation to highlighting some of these smaller businesses, for tourists when they do come, I think that would be good, just to maximize their spending dollars on our local products. I think that would be great.
Well, I appreciate all of you, both of you, for actually, sharing your stories and talking to us about some of the challenges. It's been difficult for everyone, but especially for our small business owners, trying to make it, trying to promote our brand Hawaii in this difficult time, especially with no visitors coming in. So thank you again.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for this opportunity and allowing us to share.
And Jimmy Chan there, Hawaiian Chip Company, and Neal Arakaki with Menehune Mac. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't go away. Good morning, Hawaii. We'll be right back.